Welcome, game dev adventurers, to the Indie Game Lunch Hour. Today we're talking with Juliana Brito about game jams as a tool to develop game markets outside the US and Europe. Let's get some games in different parts of the world.
The Indie Game Lunch Hour.
In our live magical podcast, we give game developers the chance to hear stories of breaking in from industry experts, as well as directly ask them questions about their areas of expertise in the second half of each episode. This is a mostly unedited recording of a weekly event we host in our Discord, so come and join us. There's links to join down below. Happens every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. As always, I'm your host, Willem Delventhal, the headmaster of the Indie Game Academy, as well as the Purple Wizard. You may have seen me around a couple of game events, and if you notice a Purple Wizard with a yellow exclamation mark over his head, come say hi. That's me. All right. Joining me today on the show is Juliana Brito, whose last name I'm attempting to pronounce correctly here. And we're here to talk about game jams as a tool to develop game markets outside of the US and Europe, aka trying to get more people building games that aren't just the same old faces, which is wonderful. It's very much something I look forward to talking about. Juliana is the founder of, what is it called? Indie Hero?
Indie Hero and Gamejams Plus. Yes.
Yes, awesome. And I'm very excited to talk about both of those. Juliana, welcome to the show. What are you having for lunch today?
Hello, everyone. It's super nice to be here. I'm super happy with the invitation. And yes, I'm the CEO today of Gamejams Plus and Indie Hero. And then we just say briefly what these both companies are. So Gamejams Plus is like a world game jam. We are today in 42 countries. We do together game jam, but we do something a little bit different. Our game jam takes 8 months. It's yes, we start with a game jam and then we do an incubation where we improve technically the product, and then we do acceleration program where we transform games into business. And I think we are the only global game jam in the world that actually focus on doing business and demo days and business round at the end of the process. So that's a process of 8 months. And now we're in 42 countries, about 100 cities around the world. And we have been doing that for 9 years. And we have helped develop a lot of game ecosystems around the world. I would love to talk about a little bit later. And with Indie Hero, we understood that after the game jam, it was pretty cool. That was like a vertical slice and a demo. So people had already something to show, but they also need to mature studios, actually build a company, become a company. And that's what we do in Indie Hero. We try to help this next phase to actually get the first contracts and stuff like that. So that's our second phase of the whole thing. So we have been doing that for 9 years now.
Wow, that's incredible. It's a noble effort and a ton of work. I very much know exactly how much effort something like this is. I'm curious, how many games do you get to come out of each of these jams? And you run one a year, I assume?
For the last year we had 5,000 participants all over the world, and we had there was 450 games that were made. And at the end of the process, we just have 60 plays for the acceleration process, because we actually do a demo day, we actually do a business round, we have meet to met platform, we invite publishers, investors. So we had just 6 slots for that. So we are now in this phase of the competition, and we have 60 teams that are going forward, and presenting these games in 2 weeks for the publishers and investors. So yes.
That's awesome. This is the first time that you're doing that? The first time that you're inviting the publishers and letting them pitch?
Platform is the first time with the meet to match platform, but we have been doing business rounds for the last 3 editions. Okay. Every year, Gamejams Plus gets a little bit something. The first year we just Brazil and just the game jam. Then the second year we're game jam and incubation. That's more technical, art, design, music, and stuff like that. Then the third year was the first time we had something outside Brazil, outside the country. So we have the first foreign country participating with us. And then the fourth year we put, okay, it's cool to do games, but we have to pay bills, you know. We want our goal is everyone to live from doing games should be able to do it. Like the market is big enough for that. That's
Hmm.
enough for everyone. So how do you make that possible? So then we put the acceleration part, like let's think about business too. Let's think how to make like money with this that you actually went to the trouble to make. So and then after that we put the demo day, we put the business rounds, and like every year it gets. And this year got the Meet to Match platform. We did a partnership with them, and it's the first time we're offering that in the end of the game jam. So we're pretty
That's
happy about
amazing.
it.
Super cool. It's a fascinating way to get people building games. It's a bit of the principles that started the Indie Game Academy in the first place. Um, I was teaching very traditional C sharp boot camps. Here is one aspect of game development. And I realized that what people really were lacking, what was difficult to get, more than the experience learning how to actually make games, more than C sharp, more than engineering, more than even Unity, was just the ability to sit down and release a game, and especially work with a team. And game jams have always been, a staple of our industry and do exactly that. But so many people are scared to start them. So many people are scared to jump into them. And so, in many ways, IGA was an answer to that. And IGA was like, all right, let's just get you building a game. Don't worry about it. We're going to guide you. It's not scary, we promise. So, I love that you're doing the same thing. And I love that you're also doing it in emerging countries for the game industry, countries that traditionally don't have as much of a developed game industry. That is super cool.
Nice.
And like,
We have
applause to
like
you for it.
yeah, thank you. We have
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 participants in US. Maybe this year after this podcast, you guys will participating with us. And also like we do have like in Western Europe a lot of participants. So like we have like 100 participants in Serbia or like Slovakia. Slovakia, we had like 150 participants there, so a lot, but not like in like France, Germany, like they have like 2 participants. I think
Hmm.
there's a lot of opportunities in US and also Western Europe.
Hmm.
And then we are like kind of new, so we don't look like a very good opportunity. But like when you go like Africa, when you go like Indonesia, Philippines, when you go Latam, like Brazil, Mexico, and everyone, there's not a lot of opportunities to connect with the international market.
Hmm.
And what we do like in Game Jump Plus today, we have like 1,500 mentors. A lot of them are international. Like nowadays, just 25% of the participants are from Brazil, so everything's very international. And then it's a really an opportunity for a junior, someone entering the industry, to actually get in contact with people that have been in the industry for a long time, and also this international contact that's so hard to get when like it's not easy for us to come from to GDC or Gamescom, because
Hmm.
like it costs a lot of money. Like the dollar costs way more than like our local money. So for example, with $1 that you buy like water in US, you could buy like 5, 6, 7 liters of water in Brazil.
Hmm.
Like for one, like the same price that you pay here for 1 liter of water. That's so. And then you will go to Africa. It's the different opportunity again. For example, this year, a winner from the incubation was from Africa, was from Madagascar. So like the winner of this part gets a free trip to Brazil, to our global grand final where we like give prizes for everyone and everything. It's super cool experience. And like the person from Madagascar is had like severity difficulties to get a visa to come. Like actually like bureaucracy to actually come. Like we had to book a hotel for him and send the invitation. We have to do an invitation from the program. I had to give him my private address and send my documents as a person of contact. So think this person how he would go to a GDC or a Gamescom. It's like it's
Hmm.
impossible because he's not gonna get like a letter of invitation from, like, he's a guy in Madagascar. He's not getting a letter invitation from GDC to go there. So it's pretty hard for a lot of the world to actually come to the West, and exchange and do games together. But like we are 25% of the consumers of the world. Like if you take Latam, Africa, and Middle and Southeast Asia, we consume 25% of all the sales on games. So we're pretty gamers, here. A lot of gamers here. So we should also produce some.
That's super cool. It's a problem that I think a lot of people who live in the U.S. And Europe and similar more developed countries with more of a heavy game industry that's already existed there for a while. It's something that many of us don't really realize. It took me a while to realize it, and I think a lot of people who live in these states don't realize it yet. We struggle ourselves to break into the game industry just because the game industry is hard. But what we think of as breaking into the game industry is working at some of the biggest gaming companies in the world. When we say we're breaking into the game industry, we're talking about trying to work at Blizzard. We're talking about trying to work at EA, which I guess is the same thing now, but you know what I mean. Versus when you're talking about breaking into the game industry from outside of the US, it's so much. There's so many more barriers in the way. It is so much more difficult to
Yes, and
find a
it is
community of
also super
people.
hard because those big
Yeah.
companies, they do not actually hire juniors. They just look mostly for seniors. So
Hmm.
like how is a junior is gonna become a senior? Like we have to have some space where we can actually do games and like learn, but they do like different from like other industries where you have like these multinational companies. They do like trainee program, internship program. Like where is the Blizzard internship program, like I
Yep.
don't know if you guys get that, but
There is
we
none.
never hear about it, you
Yeah.
know and then like game jams comes, so like is the only almost the only way for you to do an internship, work in a group, actually develop a game, to understand all the phases, and like um because you have to become a senior at some point so you can like actually work to PlayStation or like all those big companies.
Hmm. Yeah, it is such a barrier to entry. Here's what I'm curious about. So let's spend a moment to directly give a little advice to everybody who is outside of the U.S. and Europe, and then we'll do a little bit of advice for those inside of the U.S. and Europe. So for those outside, what are some of the things that you can recommend? Game Jam Plus obviously sounds like a wonderful option. What are some of the things that those outside can start to do right now to help them move towards the game industry and working in this space?
Yeah, for sure, like you have to have LinkedIn. Like the LinkedIn is like really going nowadays, so you have to
Hmm.
have LinkedIn, and you have like actually to create some content on the LinkedIn. So like let's see, you are like a 3D artist or something, please create some content on 3D art, like and especially in English. Like some of this content should be in English. English is super important. If you don't know English yet, please go and try to learn. A lot of countries have a lot of programs that you can learn English for free in some way. So please try, because it's just the international language, and you just
Hmm.
have to know it. It doesn't work any other way. So like do a pretty good LinkedIn, and then also participate on those game jams. Like of course,
Hmm.
Game Jam Plus, but you guys have like Global Game Jam, and you also have Woman Game Jam. So there's other like game jams that will connect you to some people, in the industry. So you then connect with them LinkedIn, and like they are part of your network, and then you have to come to game events. It's important. You have to, maybe not GDC because it's very expensive and hard, or Gamescom, but like Africa has Africa Games Week, so that's their local event. Like in Brazil, we have now Gamescom Latam, and Asia has Gamescom Asia now. So Tokyo Game Show. So like actually try to go to one of those events. And before you do the LinkedIn, go to the event, meet the people that you met through LinkedIn, that you exchange, that you got in contact during the program, and then that's something that should get you going pretty well.
Hmm. Wonderful. It's funny, most of this advice is the same thing that we give to those inside of the US, besides learn English, I guess, because most of us know English at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, very much build that LinkedIn, build that online presence, find a way, find some form of content that you can regularly deliver. And that's mostly, by the way, that's not really to build like a followership, although that's useful. It's more just to show that you are an expert in your craft and to build that expertise, really, because posting content forces you to learn more. It's why I teach. Participate in game jams, go to game events, and there are more and more game events all over the world. The Indie Game Dev Alliance is one of the best places for that. There's IGDA chapters literally all over the world, and if you don't have
All over
one
the
near
world.
you,
Yeah.
you can start one pretty easily, and then random game devs will find you. So I love that. So let's spend a moment to talk about inside the US and Europe now. Those who are inside the US and Europe, at the very least in this community, we're going to be very interested in helping people, break into this space, whether or not they're from the US and Europe. So give us a little bit of perspective. What can we do to help this cause? What can we do to help uplift the game industry across the whole planet?
Yes, I think there's a lot of opportunity for co-development. Like
Mhm.
we can connect like the indie game launch hour. You're coming for Games Conneton, and we can connect with our community, that Game Jump Plus community all over the world. And we have some cases, very successful cases of doing um, it's co-development, because like there are some grants that exist just in Europe or just in US, so you can start your game. But they don't just cover about 50% of the development of the game. I don't know how in the
Mhm.
West, but in Europe it works like that, like Western Europe at least. And then you find very good studios in Brazil, in Indonesia, like in all these other places, like really good studios, like Costa Rica, like really like top people to work with. They are willing to do the other half of the game like for
Mhm.
free and launch the game together. So that's an
Hmm.
opportunity. Like you can get the money for 50% and pay yourselves, and then you can like the other part of the game, the other half of the game, you can have a foreign studio to do it. You guys gonna launch together and split the profits.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of studios in Brazil that, or Indonesia or Costa Rica, that would be willing to do that. We have seen as very successful cases. Um, and like there's really quality there because we have a lot of studios doing outsourcing. So we already do like in Brazil, we have two big companies that do, like, for example, Horizon, that game, triple A game with the
Mhm.
bow and the big robots. Like all the robots were produced by Brazilian studios, like
Hmm.
all the robots. And we have like several cases like that of big AAA students outsourcing. Like Brazil now is like the 10th big game economy, so we have received a lot of outsource from AAA games. So I think that's something the AAA, the big ones, are already looking and using,
Hmm.
and the indies should use it also, so you guys can like launch games easier and faster, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. And is actually something I hadn't really considered. Maybe IGA will hit you up. We'll do some partnership, Juliana. Regardless, though, I think that's something that juniors and indies maybe don't quite realize. Double A's and triple A's, I would say, especially in my opinion, double A's, those who are like pretty big but not quite Blizzard, um, do a ton of outsourcing. And it may not be people outside of the US. They may have outsourced teams inside the US, but many of them are outside the US. In some of the companies I've worked at, we've had like our art department is entirely outsourced somewhere else, and we get objects, models from those teams, and then we utilize those models in our game. Or we even have some co-development studios actually doing code. They'll do simple implementations for us for something that like would be sometimes hard for our team to handle, or if there's something that actually would be very rote but just takes a lot of hours, where we're like, we don't want to build another inventory system or whatever. That's the kind of thing that those like mid plus sized studios actually outsource all the time. So this is a really interesting opportunity for indies and small scale companies, because you may think like, well, I can't do that because I have no budget whatsoever. I can only pay myself. But if you do some kind of, it sounds like essentially a rev share agreement, like maybe they're keeping the money from their country or something like
Yes.
that. Then you can get a ton more, manpower, a ton more hours, and potentially split development in a way that actually gives you a competitive edge. A lot of the world is becoming smaller for games, maybe is my point. It's becoming easier and easier to release your games to a larger market than just English speakers.
Yes, and also like you, for example, you co-develop with a Brazilian studio. You
Mhm.
have other source of income side, like for example, Steam or Google Play and Apple Pay, because like we also have like the distribution platforms from Brazil. Like we have Nuvem, we have Bemobi, names that are not very well known here in the West that you probably don't know, but like Bemobi has like 32 million players, and
Hmm.
like Nuvem has like 50 million players inside of the platform. So they are not small numbers, and you are missing this distribution opportunity. And if you bring maybe a foreign studio to co-develop on your game, you will start to know about these other distribution opportunities. There's something that publishers already know and they already use. So if you have a
Hmm.
publisher that are doing that, and you are doing a little bit maybe self-publishing, and you're not like taking the full profits that you could make with your game. So
Hmm.
even though you're gonna split the cost, maybe in the end you're gonna receive more for your game.
Hmm. That's really interesting. I There's also something to be said. So, a lot of the more challenging, challenging is the wrong word. A lot of the things that people think are challenging, indie and small scale studios leave to the end. They'll be like, well, maybe I'll think about localization, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to focus on the US right now because, oh my God, there's so much to focus on, which I get. We're all founders here. But if you include this kind of thing earlier on, it actually becomes a ton easier. If you say, I'm going to launch to Brazil as well as the US or wherever, that means that you can build some considerations into your game that make that a ton easier. Depending on the type of game, for instance, you can cut down on the amount of copy. You can use a lot of symbols and pictures rather than actual language, actual text. And then you might be able to find some sort of partner like this who can actually do a ton of the lifting for you without too much extra lift besides a couple of meetings now and then to make sure everybody's on the same page. And that's the kind of thing that's going to differentiate you or put you outside of the majority of those indie companies coming out of the US. Because most of them are just heads down, focusing, how do I make my game? And if you can give a little bit more effort to launching in other parts of the world than just the US, there's a couple things that does. Number one, there's just more potential players for your game. But number two, those extra potential players aren't just in Brazil. Because if you wind up going viral in Brazil, that's going to wind up carrying over to the US a little bit as well, and potentially other countries as well.
And
So here's my,
a little bit
yeah.
more like that. Like I was in Finland at Ruvio from like Angry Birds, and we talk with him, and they are saying like they do test a lot of their like updates. They test before in the players in Brazil,
Huh.
because if they know like it was well received, it's probably gonna be well received around the world. I'm saying Brazil example because we are people that come from a lot of people. Like we have a lot of people from Europe that came to Brazil like 60, 70 years ago during World War. We have like the second biggest community of Jewish people in the world besides Israel. We are the biggest colony of Germans in the world besides Germany. So we are like a mix. Like we have so many people that came from Africa, like during unfortunately slavery and everything, but they,
Hmm.
they do uh, they are 50% of people like the Indians and everything. So we are like very, very mixed. So normally something that's well accepted in our market by everyone normally is well accepted all over the world just because we're a mix of the whole world. But the West is like that too. Like the West is a
Hmm.
mix of the whole world too. But to test something in US is way more expensive than to test something in Brazil. So like a big company like Rio, like from Angry Birds, huge franchise, test everything first in Brazilian market before they go. Like we are working now with a German company. They're gonna do a soft launch of the game, and they're doing Brazil first before they try to launch all over the world. So that will also bring you like a new market to test in a cheaper way to test your game, to do play testing and stuff like that. So if you do co-development to studios all over the world, you have a secondary market that's way cheaper to do tests before you actually um, commit to some decision in your game.
Mm. That is really interesting. I hadn't even considered that. That's basically another area for QA or testing or just soft launching, which is another subject that indies don't often do because it may not make as much sense for indies to do it, but sometimes it really does. Um, I think this is really cool. So here's my next question: how do we connect us US peeps? how do we connect with a potential partner across the seas? What are some of the platforms we can use or some of the ways to find them?
Like we have our Discord, so you can just join our Discord server, and we have the Discord server of Game Jam Plus and also the Discord
Hmm.
server Indie Hero. In Game Jam Plus, you have like more juniors and like more students and stuff like that. In Indie Hero, we'll have like more companies, um, already people there launch a game or are launching a game in the moment that.
Hmm.
So this is a way to connect, but of course, game events like we are gonna have this year, Gamescom Latam. So who wants to have a trip to Brazil can also come. But also we have like Gamescom Asia, so who is able to go there should also
Hmm.
come. But we also have like some online events like in Brazil. I'm organizing online business rounds with the Meet to Match platform, for example, and it's gonna be online, so people can just like get inside um of the Meet to Match platform and do it online. So I think that's a lot of ways through LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn is always something. Just like you guys found me through Gamescom Latam website, and then we
Hmm.
just grab a talk. And so just look at these community leaders, like say, oh, I think Costa Rica is a country for me. I don't know.
Hmm.
Like maybe you like Costa Rica, so you wanna maybe co-develop a studio there, or you saw some games from Costa Rica and said, oh, these people are actually pretty good. I want to do something together. All the like IGDA, they will have the local leader there, so that's some way. So just find the local leaders and they will connect with, like, everybody wants to connect everywhere. So uh,
It's true.
if we just like reach one person inside a community, this person will do a lot of effort to
Hmm.
actually put you in the right direction, so you should not be
Yeah.
afraid of that.
I love that. Yeah. So we will, as always, any links that we mention in the episode, we will include down below. So we'll include links to both of those Discord servers if you want to join. It's a wonderful idea. I think it's also maybe one of those invisible privileges that people in the US and Europe don't realize is that game developers from outside of the US are going to be really excited to connect with you. So maybe be even less scared, just try, just go for it. And I love the concept of, it really is nothing special. Just go. Also, we'll be at Gamescom this year, everyone, for those listening to this, Gamescom Brazil. So our own Ulysses Rubino, head of marketing, will be there. Very excited to have him over there. So Juliana and Ulysses, I think you two already connected,
And I
but
will
you two, you
introduce
should
him
chat.
to everyone. So
Yes, please
he
do.
will also bring all these juicy contacts to your Discord.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I want Ulysses to become like renowned. I want to make him famous. So that's my goal. Because I just like Ulysses and I want him to be special. All right. So this is like just a really fascinating sort of mind-opening maybe um, conversation to begin with, because I think a lot of those who are junior developers don't realize that they have this opportunity in front of them. And they also may not realize yet the power of globalization, because launching in the US is sort of oftentimes there's just so much to learn and so much to do, like we were saying earlier, that it's hard to consider launching in other parts of the world. But it's really quite doable. And I want all of you to consider that this really is quite doable, and it doesn't take much to connect with those who can help you do it. Like Juliana here seems like a great place to start. We'll also include Juliana's LinkedIn in the links down below, so perhaps go connect and just ask. If we have any community questions, drop them in the chat. We'll get to those in just a second. Juliana, I'm curious, like, what else do you have any other thoughts on collaboration maybe across the world? Because there are some extra considerations. There's a little extra legal here in the US, or depending on which countries you're working with. How do you get people from different parts of the world working together?
Like we try to, like, there's two, maybe three big people that we look for. The first one is like people that are already community leaders, like a lot of countries around the world, or cities around the world, they have like a local games association. So we just try to look to this person that's responsible for representing the community. So like Brazil, we have like Abra Games, they are the Brazilian Games Association.
Hmm.
Like in each major city in Brazil, like Asia major state in Brazil has also a local association. Like Rio de Janeiro has the Rio de Janeiro Local Association. And that's the same thing for like IGDA leaders. So we just
Mm.
go like these people are people that love to connect. They are very motivated to build the industry on the city. That's why they join IGDA. So we look for IGDA leaders, for example, also,
Mm.
and we look for those kind of people. That's one. Second, we look for teachers in universities.
Mm.
Teachers in universities, these people are engaged. Like they really, really want you to learn and like really live to our potential through game dev. So like every university has at least one teacher that's this guy that try to do everything and like organize game jams. Like your university has it, every university has it. This one teacher that's more motivated than every single other one, and just like this person just believe on like actually giving a better life to the students. So we have
Mm-hmm.
like for example in Slovakia and Costa Rica we have such engaged teachers there. They were able to put Game Jam Plus as part of the curriculum. So we are part of the curriculum in the university in Slovakia and also university in Costa Rica just because they believe so much. So
Mm.
like teachers are awesome. And then the third person would be like um owner of a bigger studio on this country. It seems like the studios that are bigger, they need more people to work, and because of that, is it uh, is in their interesting to develop the local game community so they can
Mm-hmm.
hire more people, you know,
Yeah.
so they can actually grow. So we have like some countries that we work with those owners of, just like Argentina is for us like that. We work with the owner with a big studio, because he doesn't need to grow and need to find like actual talent for his
Mm.
company, and he's not finding that easy in the country,
Mm.
uh, um, to develop this. As I said, like big companies don't have like trainee programs, so the indie studios have less money has to actually train all these people, and then when they are awesome, PlayStation hire them or like Nintendo. So we
That is
just
what
lose
indie
our.
studios are. Indie studios
Yes,
are the training programs. It's
we
ridiculous.
are the training program and we have less money to do that, so
Yep.
it's pretty sad. It's pretty hard industry for us too, because we
Mm-hmm.
do lose a lot of talent to like really higher salaries. So this kind of like owners of studios, they have this interesting of like bringing and training talent, and like
Mm-hmm.
Game Jump Plus just work as a tool to train, that they don't have to do everything alone, because they already have like, I even have like one company, they came to me like, they said, I don't want to organize Game Jam Plus like for the whole city, but can I organize for everyone in my company? Like, can all my employers, like he had like 100 employees in a game company, and he was like, can all my employees, like, because I need to train so many people and I don't have enough seniors to train. So like you already have like 1,500 seniors that's gonna give free mentorship. Like I want this to my like employees, you know. So we also find those people, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. I love it as I love it as a concept. This is like a real benefit you're giving the world. Are you guys a nonprofit out of curiosity?
Yes, like Game Jam Plus X
Mm.
as a nonprofit, we just have like some very bureaucracy problems because we would be like a world nonprofit. So we
Mm-hmm.
couldn't get to actually build the bureaucracy, so we can have like one person from Africa and one person from Europe and one person to compose our board members to do like the like official NGO. Like we didn't
Mm-hmm.
have enough like money to spend lawyers on that.
Mm-hmm.
But like we act as a nonprofit. Our goal is to be a nonprofit at some point when we can organize that. And Indie Hero is a for-profit company. That's our for-profit company. There we look to make a profit, but Game Jam Plus not.
Amazing. Wow. All right. I have, it is time for community questions. I have used enough of your time. This has been super fascinating. But let's get a couple of questions in from the community. Rick, would you like to ask your first question?
Yeah, this has been really fun to listen to because I know working with international developers, there's a lot of talent that exists outside of the states. But I'm curious, if you wanted to engage in a long-term collaboration with people from other countries, what are some of the biggest challenges that you found that teams who are doing this for the first time will face? Is it the time zone thing? Is it cultural barriers? Is it legal barriers? But what are your insights there?
I don't think legal barriers would be a problem. Unfortunately, the end of the process is if anyone wants to sue anyone, you will not be able to. Like nobody will have money to sue someone in the US, and nobody in the US will have money to sue anyone else in the world. So it has to be like a trust thing. So no legal problems. Nah? I think we would have sometimes a language difficulty. Normally in a studio, you're gonna have like one person that actually has my level of English, so you can like actually do stuff. Time zone thing shouldn't be a problem because like everybody's very globalized since pandemic. Everyone like it's not a problem. I would see like every indie studio kind of works in their own way. Like we
Hmm.
don't have like what's the best way a producer in indie studios, like we don't have a standardized production a methodology for doing indie games, especially because like do a mobile game or hyper casual game so different for doing a PC premium game and so different to doing all these kind of games. So probably to connect the both production way, production phase, like to actually interconnect that, I would say would be the main difficulties. To say okay, like first art, then development, then like just to we like the producer of the game would have some extra work to balance everything
Hmm.
and understand. But I would say that's the main problem. And of course, to really, I would not connect with a person. I would connect with studio. So I would go with iStudio that already launched a game. There's a lot of studios. They're still small, but have already launched one or two small games. And I would go with that because they already went through the whole process of beginning, launching, getting feedback. So they'll probably be like better people that you can work with, instead of studios that haven't launched a game or just like one person in itself.
That makes a lot of sense because if people have worked together on projects in the past, they already kind of have a working chemistry, and that way you link to a network. So it sounds like for finding people internationally, it's better to connect to networks of developers rather than just trying to hobble together just a group of random developers you found on Fiverr or something.
Yeah.
I have also heard about some like a foreign studio and a local studio. They went to a game jam together to do a game, and they tested the chemistry during the game jam. And I heard that as a successful strategy before deciding to go into a long-term contract with a studio in the foreign country.
Yeah, definitely. Always jam together before the long term. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Easy rule. That's for inside the US and outside the US. Before you ever decide to work on a project together, just do a game jam. It takes like 2 days. It's not that hard. You can do a little small one and you'll learn so much about working together. Just to back this up, maybe, we have two members of our team, the person who does accounting for us and the person who does a lot of the sort of like back end social media stuff for us, that are both outside of the US. They're both actually from the Philippines. Significant time difference, 12-hour difference. But it's honestly super chill. We're a remote first company, which means a huge chunk of our communication happens over text. So it's really not that. It's almost like you're communicating via email. You send a message and you hear back the next day of what actually happened. So I might encourage people, and it's really not that hard. Like the Philippines, at least, doesn't care much about us working with those people, is even happy for us to work with those people because that means some money is going to the Philippines from us. So it has been super easy and has been also invaluable. The person who does all of the podcast stuff is from the Philippines. That's Kath. Hi, Kath. Thank you, Kath. We love you.
I
um,
love you.
I encourage you to do it. Yeah. Reach out and work with some people outside of the US and Europe. All right. Next up, we have Andy Bugs. Andy, would you like to ask your question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my question was, I currently live in Tunis, but I have plans on moving to India. I'm a Indian citizen. Um, I didn't know Brazil had such a large gaming scene. So recently, I learned that to publish a game on Steam, you would need a foreign tin for tax purposes because you wouldn't want to get double taxed on the income that's coming in from both countries. Once the money comes from the U.S., it's taxed there first by Steam, and then it would come to India, and then it'll be taxed again. So you would need a foreign tin so it doesn't get double taxed. How do taxes work in Brazil for people who don't live in that country?
It's the same thing. So what we do, we have like 2 or 3 strategies to go around that. So the first strategy is just to open a PO box in US. So Delaware is like a taxes incentive amazing city. So Delaware is an option. So you don't get like these 2 taxes, and you just pay everyone directly for an account in US. Your US account is one way. The second way, we have nowadays companies specialize of retrieving money that you already paid in double taxing. So we have one that's working in Brazil with almost all our major studios. They do get double taxed, but then the company is able to retrieve 70%, up to 70% of the double tax they were charged. So that's another way to do it. And the third way to do it, like in Brazil, we created some small publishers. These small publishers, they have like a structure in the West to receive the money. They are not actually publishers doing a lot of marketing and stuff. We just publish through them, so we can get the money through Brazil. So that's 3 ways to actually do that that we found out at the moment.
Thank you. So I'm a smaller, like it's just me, you know. I don't have a team. I'm like, for smaller people who are like, it's either, I've been told, the sole proprietorship in the U.S. You should make one, maybe not, or an LLC. I'm still confused on those parts. Um,
Yeah.
is Would you give any general advice for people who just don't live in the U.S. and just need that kind of?
You don't have like the instruction to just open the LLC in Delaware. Yes. What we have do, the studios, they go around launching small games and getting double text until they have some structure to actually do the jump. And then they get in contact with one of those companies. They are specialized in retrieving up to 70% of the double text. But then they're already doing like, I know a company that has launched about 10 games, think like small games, but they're doing like $10,000 revenue per month at the moment with those very like games they did in a month and a half or something. So that's gave them enough structure to actually now do a small DLC in the West. It doesn't cost that much. Like to open the DLC, all the bureaucracy costs like $1,000. And then to keep it open and moving, it costs like $200 per month. So it's actually not that expensive to do it. And there's a lot of like content and website that would teach you how to do it, or you just like get in contact with a lawyer that specialize on that. But
Yep.
in the beginning, maybe you get double taxed. Um, Continue anyway, continue launching the games, making profit for it. And then at the later date, when you're more structured and already have some money in your bank account, you will be able then to try to retrieve this money. Like this company that I know, they are able to retrieve up to 5 years in the past, up to
Wow.
70% of the double tax you paid. So
Okay, thank you. That was very
I
informative.
hope
Thank you.
I helped you, but yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. This is always a sticky subject, Andy. Andy Bugs. So something I can recommend is just talk to a lawyer. A lot of the time, they'll give you at least that first consultation for free. They'll spend 45 minutes, an hour with you without charging you. After that, they might charge you. Just make sure it's very clear ahead of time. And there's also people in this server. So like Sam Castry is a really active member of our community in the Indie Game Academy, who is a lawyer and is often willing to just chat with you. So Andy, maybe just like hit up Sam and ask a little bit. We are not lawyers. It's important to know that. That said, starting businesses in the United States doesn't need to be hard. I recognize that people outside of the U.S. it's going to be harder, but it's also often not too much money. At least a couple hundred US dollars, which can be a lot. I totally understand, but it's not like It is less scary than you think, is maybe all I'm saying. All right, it is time for the community question of the day, which is where we reiterate one of the most important things we learned from Juliana here to make sure everybody remembers. So the first person to type the answer in the chat correctly to the following question will get 3 House Cup points for house of your choice. If you're listening, say the answer out loud. Here's the question. What are 3 of the things that Juliana recommends for those outside of the US to start partnering and working more closely with those inside of the US and Europe? What are 3 of the things that Juliana recommends?
Oh, this is hard. You do that to the community.
Yeah, I
To
force
see
them
the
to answer questions.
implementation.
Yep,
Very
exactly.
interesting.
I'm watching Hella Steph here right now. I'm putting pressure on you, Hella Steph. Color Optimist gets one of them, create a LinkedIn. We'll accept Color Optimists in the next minute if nobody gives us a better answer than that. One of them is to create a LinkedIn. Color Optimist has one of the 3. Anybody else have others? Doesn't seem like people know. All right, I'm going to give it to Color Optimist to keep us moving along. Congratulations. Create a LinkedIn is the first thing. The second thing is to learn English. That's one of the big ones. And then the third thing is to create content on LinkedIn. There's also a couple of other things that Juliana recommended, including participating in game jams, going to game events in your local country, and there's all kinds of things like that. If you can't find game jams in your country or game events in your country, you really can start that community. And I'll tell you what, yes, Game Jam Plus is online. You can join that one. And then it is incredibly fulfilling to start a game jam community. It's a lot of work, yes, for sure. I'm sure you agree with that too, Juliana. But it really is incredibly fulfilling. And it means a lot. It's something we want to support. So if you don't have an IGDA chapter, for instance, in your local country or close by you, consider doing that yourselves, and then perhaps reach out to a couple of us and ask for a little help, because we're totally willing to get that rolling with you. All right, that is 3 points for Rogues for Color Optimist. Congratulations. I think Rogues are currently in last, so they desperately need those points. All right, Juliana, we're coming to the end. We're coming to the end of the episode. There are 2 things I like to do before we say goodbye. The first one is to assign some homework to the listeners. So what is something that they can do in the next week that'll take them just about an hour or so that'll help them practice some of what we talked about here today?
Oh, hard. I think they could do they could start the only newsletter at LinkedIn. Like I did that, and it takes 3 minutes to start a new newsletter, and the text they are about 300 to 600 words, so not a huge text, and you can write one in 20 minutes, so just try the platform. I started a newsletter on LinkedIn just because I was pushed to it a little bit also, and then I got results that I was not waiting for. Even in a week that I don't post anything, I have 10 new subscribers in the newsletter. In 3 months or something, I got 400 people subscribing to my newsletter. So these people will always get an email when you do a text. So you can keep a text every 15 days. Every 2 weeks, you do a 300-word text. That's 20 minutes, 30 minutes work a week. You already bring a lot of profits to you as a professional, as a business owner and everything. So I think that's something less than an hour that you should do.
I love that. That's a nice and easy one. Yeah, for those who don't understand this yet, LinkedIn is very much an up and coming, and not even really up and coming, already established, but still up and coming is perhaps the point. Social media platform. It is really exploding right now. The biggest people on LinkedIn, there are a couple who have 1 million followers, but the vast majority of the big ones, especially in games, only have 60,000, 70,000 followers, which means you at just 1,000 followers are actually one of the bigger voices on the platform. And once you get to 5 or 10,000, you are literally one of the biggest, especially in the game industry. And it's only growing day by day. It is still early lifespan. Victor just dropped a GIF that says, "I love LinkedIn." It is still early lifespan as a social media platform, which means there's tremendous opportunity there for you to become, a recognized voice on the platform. So I love that as a piece of homework. That's nice and simple. Within the next week, I want you to write an article, perhaps start a newsletter, 300 to 600 words on an area of expertise that you have. It doesn't need to be awesome. Remember the gods of iteration. You can start with a shitty version. It's okay. It'll get better after that. So
Okay.
once you post that, absolutely. Once you post that, I want you to tag us. Tag the Indie Game Academy, tag me, tag Juliana, and we'll come and celebrate you and perhaps repost it and get you a little bit of extra attention. All right, it is now the end of the episode. Before we say goodbye, Juliana, do you have any last messages or anything you'd like to plug here?
No, I just very happy that I got to connect to you guys. I can see us doing great things in the future, and I hope that they will bring our both communities together, because I think that such a great opportunity to democratize the game industry a little bit more, and like actually bring more focus to the indie games, and actually develop this industry more than just in the name of 20 big companies. So I'm very happy to be here, and I will be happy to connect with anyone that wants to connect with me through LinkedIn, and I give like all the links that I talked here about. I will give someone later.
I love that. 110,000%. This is what every tech bro says, but I would love to see a decentralization of the game industry. We're an artistic field. We're here to make cool, creative stuff and beautiful experiences for each other. And capitalism's tendency to hoard all of the wealth into one or two locations kind of sucks. Let's not have that in our industry. I don't like it. None of us really do. So democratize as much as possible. Get as many small scale people building games as possible. I want to see it. Juliana wants to see it. It's happening outside of the US and here in the US. So I love that as a final message. Thank you, Juliana. Follow their Discords. Jump into the Game Jam Plus Discord and the Indie Hero Discord. They are down below. You can join us as well in our Discord, the Indie Game Academy, for a wonderful community of stupidly supportive people. And I think that's basically it. We're going to see all of you next week, Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, every single week. And I'm looking forward to it. Juliana, thank you for being here.
Thank you, everyone. I'm putting the Discord things here. Bye. Nice to meet you
Perfect.
all.
Goodbye. Nice to meet everybody. And thank you for listening. And as always, if you enjoyed listening, we ask that you send this episode along to just one other person who may enjoy it too. All right. Goodbye now.